Welcome to my channel. This is an indication of some of the things that I cover on a regular basis in my videos. If you haven't already subscribed, please feel free to do so, and don't forget to click the little bell so that you'll get notified of future videos. Please feel free to share my videos on your social media, and I hope you enjoy the video which follows. Well, hello everybody. I thought I'd give you a look at what's going on inside the greenhouse. But before I go in, a little glimpse at the red flowering horse chestnut. Really, it's past its prime. Under it right now there's a carpet of red blossoms that have fallen off of it, so by this time next week there won't be any flowers left on it, I guess. And before we go inside, a couple of things I'll show you here in this new herbaceous border that I planted a few weeks ago. That is the Brunera, Queen of Hearts. And it sent up a blossom spike of the tiny little blue flowers, but I zoom back a bit here, you can see what it actually looks like. It's actually grown for its foliage, but in early summer or late spring it does produce these tiny little blue flowers, a lot like forget-me-not. The dianthus has opened up its first flower, looking very much like a carnation, as I've said before. They are in the same family, but I haven't tried walking over in there to smell it. I'm sure it has the same fragrance as well. Later today, the malva will have its first flower opened, I think. It's starting to unfurl there. It's quite a tall plant. Since I put it in, it's grown a lot. This camera doesn't have a wide enough angle on it to show the entire greenhouse in one swoop. But this is just standing at the door looking inside, and I'll take you around and show you some of the highlights. Start off with a look at the crazy mystery plant. I gave it one of those steel tomato plant spirals to climb. The only large one that I have. It's about 5 feet tall. And as you can see, this foolish thing went all the way to the top and then some. I'm about to put a stop to that. 5 feet is enough. It's got lots of side branching, absolutely no sign of a flower coming on it anywhere. But I'm going to cut this up here. The height will remain at 5 feet, but the side branching is coming off, and some of it is clinging to the trellis thing, and other parts of it are beginning to hang down, so hopefully someday it will bloom and we'll find out what it is. But the leaf that I just cut off, the section I just cut off, I'm going to compare it to a couple of things here to show you that it isn't really conforming to either one of the things that it could possibly be. Now this is the melon that I grew in here last year that I'm thinking that this thing cross-pollinated with. And if I can get this untangled here. That's the leaf that I just took off of the other one. It's almost like a maple leaf shape and is not the same as this melon. Now this is Quarantine, the European gherkin cucumber, which I grew in here last year, and also this leaf does not compare to it. Now I did grow a second variety of cucumbers that I'm not growing this year, even though I have some of the seed left, I guess. It's that long, seedless cucumber, long and slender, and we tend to call it an English cucumber. Here in supermarkets, when you find it, it's, what am I trying to say? It's wrapped in plastic, shrunk wrapped in plastic. So, at any rate, the leaves on the thing are not similar to two of the possibilities. I'm growing one of the summer squash in here. Variety is noce, I think it's pronounced. An Italian summer squash. The package does not call it a zucchini, but I've grown it before, and personally to me it looks and tastes like a zucchini. I have one more plant out in the garden as well, but they don't produce runners. They're just a large plant, so I thought I would try one in here. Maybe I will get earlier zucchini than I would out in the garden. This is one watermelon plant. I'm only growing one melon and one watermelon plant. Moon and Stars. The variety is called. It's a relatively small watermelon. Has at least one large spot and several smaller ones which sort of resemble the moon and the stars, I guess, on the skin of the thing. So hopefully we'll get to see one and see what it tastes like. As I said before, I'm not growing as many tomato plants as I normally do. I have 8 plants in here. 4 of the variety called Roma, which is what this one is. And I've given each one of those steel curlicue supports. It's determinate. It only grows about 4 feet tall. And they claim it doesn't need any staking, but I don't trust that. When they get heavy with tomatoes, they fall over. So I'm giving each one of these supports. If you can see next to it or not is one of the San Marzano. And they're both coming along nicely. For a while there, they looked quite anemic. And all of a sudden, they've started to pick up. I guess they didn't really care for being transplanted. I've taken the table down, a makeshift table that had my seedlings growing on it, and these are the ones that still haven't been planted out because they're not quite large enough. Foxglove, and I actually got a couple of primulas out of it, and then the zinnias, which are going out in a few days' time. They've got a good size on them. Calendula, I've planted quite a few out, but those were some that didn't completely grow, and they're coming along nicely. In the middle tray there, there's some pepper plants left over that I've just got to get rid of. They're not going in the garden, and nobody seemed to want them. I advertised them on a local gardening Facebook page here. Just below those in that middle one are the Chinese forget-me-not, which has a larger flower than our forget-me-not, grows 1.5 to 2 feet tall, and is an annual, so I don't know if it will reseed itself or not. The forget-me-not that I have in other parts of my garden, the one that we call the local forget-me-not, is biennial, but it throws seeds, so every year there's plants, but there are plants that come up this spring that won't bloom until next spring. And then at the bottom of that tray is hollyhocks. And this is one of these San Marzano, which is a indeterminate variety. It'll grow 8 or 10 feet tall. In here, it'll get to grow about 6 or 7 feet tall before I clip the top off of it. But it's being supported on this monofilament fishing line here, if you can see it, using these little clamps. I've used this system now for 4 or 5 years. I mean, it's nothing unique to me. I buy the little clamps on Amazon, I think, but I really like it. It does an excellent job of supporting the, if I do it correctly, it does an excellent job of supporting the plant. Here we are. I think that's the 3rd one that I've put on that particular plant, but I probably put more than commercial growers do. I have a large bag of the thing, so if you've got them, you might as well use them, I guess. This is 2 of the 3 basil plants that came in from Richter's. They arrived in good condition. They all looked exactly the same. I planted all 3 in that area, and there was nothing I could do to save the 3rd one. It was just determined to die. It shriveled up and died within a week, so I don't know, something wrong with the root system on it or whatever, but these 2 are healthy and growing beautifully, and looking forward to having them someday with some tomatoes. At the back of this particular bed, there were 3 sections that were the last 3 to be planted. The one that looks like there's nothing coming up in it is because I don't think anything's coming up in it. I had a package of what they call cutting leaf celery, also I think called soup celery by some people. It isn't a celery, it's an herb, but it tastes very much like celery, and I like it. Packet was several years old, and tiny little seeds I just sprinkled on the surface there, and I've been keeping it watered, but I see a few weeds, but I don't see any of the other plants, at least not yet. Next to it I put in some French breakfast radish. I think it's only been a little over a week. Radish just tear up through the ground, and I will enjoy those in a bit. Next to it I've planted another bed of kale, variety winter boar. I will show you the bed that I've been harvesting out of in a minute. I just love the stuff. Well, the leaves to the far right, or the top, however you want to look at it, that is the winter boar kale. not looking too prolific today because I harvested a lot of it yesterday. It is so delicate and tender. I just love the stuff. Any that I ever bought in a supermarket or whatever, you had to remove the center rib and throw the stems away. They were so tough. Chop this whole thing and cook it. It's just delicious. And in the front here are my daikon radish, which are going wild. I will try to get a shot down in there and show you how large they are at this point. They're still not full grown, but there's 5 plants there completely taken over that little space. Removed a couple of leaves in front there, so you can see the size of that particular daikon. I'll go over and put my hand next to it. All 5 of them are about that size, and that's not even half grown, but they grow so fast. As you can see, that is starting to grow up out of the ground, and from past experience with them, that's really how it works. They tend to grow most on the surface. Well, obviously their root is down in the soil, but a lot of it is above ground. Again, a look at some of the herbs that came in from Richter's. That's French tarragon, and it's more than doubled in size since I planted it. And next door to it is my English thyme, which is also doing very well. If you followed some of my earlier videos, I'm growing 5 different varieties of chili peppers. And, well, they're all alive and growing, but some are much more vigorous than others. This is peperoncino, the Italian, one of many Italian chili peppers. Probably the sturdiest and healthiest of the plants. I have 2 of them. I planted 2 plants of everything. And next door to it is an orange habanero. Still looking, the older leaves are still looking quite yellow, but it is starting to develop and grow new leaves. So I'm thinking it will come along nicely. And this is a sage plant that overwintered in here, which wasn't a surprise. I've had them overwinter out in the garden, but I pruned it back. I think maybe I should have pruned it back further, but anyway, it's growing nicely. There will be lots of sage leaves. I could start harvesting them now, actually. This is the lemon drop chili. Well, it turns yellow when it's ripe, but supposedly has a citrus or lemon flavor to it, so I'm very anxious to see what that is like. This is a serrano chili. I think serranos are Mexican. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's also growing very vigorously. I'm pleased with the height that it's reaching. I guess I didn't mention when I was showing you the peperoncino, it's the first one to bloom as well. It has already bloomed, was blooming shortly after I brought it out here, even though they were all started the same day back in early March, or I guess, yeah, early March. They were started under the lights in the house. But this one doesn't have any blossom buds yet, but the plant is looking good. This is chili de arbol, a Spanish tree chili. I'm still calling it Spanish. The name is Spanish. It also is a Mexican chili. And these are grown from my own seed that I saved from the chilies that I grew last year. I ground them all into a powder, and I still use it frequently. So soon there'll be fresh ones to add to it, I guess. Last but not least, this is a jalapeno. So down at the back in the corner, my blue lupin plant is in full bloom in here. Not any earlier than the bloom outside. Lupins are all over the island here, large swaths of them along roadsides and whatever, and they're all in full bloom right now. This is the Asian chive, which has been in bloom for some time. The first day I don't see any bees in it. Usually there are bumblebees in here pollinating the blossoms there. Along with this bed, I have also planted out some of the perennials, like that's the Chinese lantern, that's a hollyhock, behind that is a black-eyed Susan. I put one of each of the perennials that I've grown in here just to see if they overwinter and what they look like. Well, I bought 3 ever-bearing strawberry plants, not expecting any great crop off of 3 plants, but I planted them all in one of the little sections here. Bought them at Canada Green when I was buying the plants for my new herbaceous border. I'll just enjoy having a ripe strawberry occasionally. I maybe even have enough to to pick a few at one time to have with cereal for breakfast or something, but with 3 plants, no great crop, that's for sure. Well, that concludes this little video update. The next one that I do, I'll take you outside and show you what's happening in the garden. Things are coming along nicely there, and up at the community garden as well. So that will be for another day. Thank you very much for watching.